Here's something Netflix does that drives me absolutely insane. Limited series are the best format television makes. No filler seasons, no story stretched past the point it had anything left to say. Just one complete story told in exactly as many episodes as it needs. But they keep recommending you the same trending shows, the next season of whatever you already watched. And buried beneath all of that, Netflix has an incredible catalog of brilliant miniseries, the kind you start on a whim and don't stop until the credits roll on the final episode. I've done the digging. Today, 15 Netflix miniseries that deserve to be talked about far more than they are. And I promise you, by the time we hit number 1, you're going to feel a little robbed that you didn't know about it sooner. 15 miniseries. Ranked. Let's go. Number 15. CLICKBAIT. Let me open with the one built entirely to keep you guessing. A family man, a devoted husband and father, goes missing. And then a video appears online. He's bound, bruised, holding a sign that claims he has hurt women. And that at 5 million views, he will die. The views climb. CLICKBAIT unfolds across 8 episodes, each one told from the perspective of a different character connected to the case. A structural device that show creators use to systematically dismantle every assumption the previous episode encouraged you to make. What you believe you understand about this man, his marriage, his sister, his online life, all of it gets rebuilt, repeatedly from a different vantage point. Zoe Kazan and Adrian Grenier lead a cast working inside a structure that demands real discipline. Every performance has to work as the truth from one perspective and as evidence of something else entirely from the next. What CLICKBAIT is actually interested in, underneath the mystery mechanics, is the specific modern horror of trial by algorithm, of a video with a countdown attached to it functioning as judge and jury before a single fact has been established. The final moment, when it lands, is fair, grounded, and considerably sadder than the premise suggests it's going to be. A tight, well-constructed limited series that deserved a much bigger conversation than it got. Number 14. The Serpent. The BBC and Netflix co-produced this 8-episode series based on one of the most disturbing true crime stories of the 1970s, Charles Sobhraj.
Our home is always open to friends.
Who's your guest, Ajay?
Oh, you're the gem dealer.
He is the gem dealer.
Charles Sobhraj moved through 1970s Southeast Asia, charming, robbing, and murdering Western backpackers along the hippie trail. For years, across multiple countries, protected by a combination of bribery, forged documents, and a specific, practiced charisma that made almost everyone who met him disbelieve what he was capable of. Tahar Rahim plays Sobhraj with a controlled magnetism that the role absolutely requires, because the Serpent only works if you understand, scene by scene, exactly why his victims trusted him. Here's what makes The Serpent extraordinary. The series deliberately tells its story out of chronological order, jumping between years and locations, mirroring the confusion investigators actually experienced trying to connect crimes that spanned multiple countries and years before anyone realized they were looking at a single killer. Chilling, meticulously researched, and one of the finest true crime dramatizations Netflix has ever produced. Number 13. Griselda.
For the last 3 years, Griselda Blanco has owned Miami, distributing cocaine.
Sofia Vergara plays Griselda Blanco, the Colombian drug trafficker known as the Godmother, who built one of the most powerful cocaine empires in Miami during the 70s and 80s, responsible for smuggling that generated billions of dollars and a body count that made even her rivals afraid of her. This is a role that almost nobody expected from Vergara, whose career had been built almost entirely on comedy, and what she does here is a genuine transformation, physically, vocally, completely, into a woman whose ruthlessness was inseparable from the specific violence of being underestimated, repeatedly, by every man who tried to control her. The creators behind Narcos made this series, and it applies the same historical rigor to Griselda's story, the corruption, the violence, the specific mechanics of how a woman operated in a criminal world that assumed women couldn't run it. What I like most is how this show refuses to glamorize a single second of it. Every dollar she makes costs her something she can never get back. And the final image of this show, I won't say what it is one of the coldest closing shots in recent television. A genuinely powerhouse performance in a genuinely well-constructed limited series. 6 episodes. Not a wasted one. Number 12, Alias Grace. This one is based on a real 1843 double murder in Canada and is one of the most quietly radical pieces of television the streaming era has produced. Grace Marks was convicted, at 16, of murdering her employer and his housekeeper. She served nearly 30 years in prison, protesting either innocence or partial memory throughout, accounts of the murders shifting depending on who was asking and what they wanted to hear. Decades later, a psychiatrist is brought in to interview her, hoping to determine, once and for all, what actually happened. Sarah Polley adapted this from Margaret Atwood's novel. The two of them had discussed adapting it together for nearly 20 years before it finally happened, and the result is a meticulous, quietly devastating period drama that never lets you settle on a single interpretation of Grace. Sarah Gadon plays Grace with a performance that keeps the audience permanently uncertain about how much she's telling the truth, how much she's performing what's expected of her, and how much of her own past she genuinely cannot access. One of the most underrated literary adaptations in Netflix's entire history. Number 11, The Innocent. Oriol Paulo, the Spanish filmmaker behind The Invisible Guest and Mirage, adapted this from a Harlan Coben novel and turned it into one of the tightest, most satisfyingly constructed thrillers in Netflix's Spanish-language catalog.
Nunca pensaste que un hombre podría volver a nacer 2 veces. Pero tú lo hiciste.
Mario Casas plays Mateo, a man whose life was upended 9 years earlier by a single, violent act of self-defense that sent him to prison. Now rebuilding a quiet, stable life with his wife, he receives a video call one night that reveals she may not be who she says she is. And the investigation that follows pulls Mateo back into exactly the kind of violent spiral he spent 9 years trying to escape. Here's what makes The Innocent work as a limited series rather than a film. Paulo uses the extended runtime to build out an ensemble of interconnected storylines. A detective, a mother searching for her missing daughter, a criminal network with roots stretching back years, that all converge with the same mechanical precision his feature films are known for, just given more room to breathe. 4 episodes. Every single one ends on a cliffhanger you won't see coming, and each new episode recontextualizes what you thought you understood about the one before it. A masterclass in structural plotting from one of the finest thriller architects working today. Number 10. Boy Swallows Universe. Here comes the coming-of-age story, but it's not the normal one. It's magical realism duct-taped to a crime drama duct-taped to one of the most quietly devastating family stories Netflix has ever produced.
I'm Eli Bell. I got a story.
What kind of story?
It's a crime story.
Based on Trent Dalton's best-selling, semi-autobiographical novel, this 7-episode series tells the story of a 12-year-old boy growing up with a mute older brother, a mother struggling with addiction, a stepfather dealing heroin, and a family friend, a convicted murderer, who Eli considers his best friend and most trusted mentor. Felix Cameron plays young Eli with a performance of remarkable emotional range for an actor his age, and the series surrounds him with adult performances. Simon Baker as his father, Brian Brown in a pivotal supporting role that never once condescend to the coming-of-age material. What makes this 7-episode Australian series extraordinary is its refusal to sanitize its subject matter while never losing its warmth. Drug trafficking, domestic violence, addiction, incarceration, all of it rendered with genuine weight, sitting alongside a story about brotherhood, first love, and a boy's specific, stubborn belief that he can write his own way out of the world he was born into. Critics who watched this for work ended up crying at their desks. That's not an exaggeration people throw around lightly, and it's not one I'm throwing around lightly either. Number 9. Death by Lightning. You almost certainly don't know this story. That's not a criticism, It's the entire reason this series exists.
All I want is to be a part of it.
My name is Charles Guiteau.
What line of work are you in?
Politics.
Michael Shannon plays James A. Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, a man almost nobody can name today, whose presidency lasted barely 6 months before he was assassinated by a delusional, obsessive admirer. Matthew McFadden, fresh off his Emmy-winning run on Succession, plays Guiteau, and the performance he builds is genuinely unsettling in its specific register of delusion. Shannon plays Garfield with a warmth and integrity that never tips into hagiography, and Betty Gilpin, as First Lady Lucretia Garfield, gives one of the most quietly powerful supporting performances of the year. Executive produced by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, Death by Lightning received critical acclaim and was named among the year's best television by the American Film Institute. This is exceptional, meticulously researched historical drama about a story most audiences have simply never been taught. It deserves to be found immediately, not discovered years from now. Number 8. Unorthodox. A 19-year-old woman flees her arranged marriage and her ultra-Orthodox Hasidic community in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and disappears to Berlin, the one place she has any connection to at all, because it's where her estranged mother fled to years before her.
Der Schatchen hat ungetrogen Eimetsen.
Was für ein Bucher ist er?
Ihr ist wie jeden einem, geherig.
Ich bin anders wie die anderen Mädchen.
Shira Haas plays Esti in a performance that earned her an Emmy nomination, and it's a performance built almost entirely on stillness and restraint. Every ounce of Esti's fear, hope, and quiet defiance communicated through her face, because she spent her entire life being taught not to speak too loudly about what she actually wants. Based on Deborah Feldman's memoir, Unorthodox, The Scandalous Rejection of My Hasidic Roots, this 4-episode German-produced Netflix series moves between Esti's new life in Berlin, tentatively discovering music, friendship, a world she was never permitted to imagine, and flashbacks to the marriage and community she left behind. Amit Rahav plays her husband Yankee, sent to retrieve her, and the show's great achievement is refusing to make him a villain. He's just as lost inside this world as she is desperate to leave it. Nominated for 8 Emmy Awards. Shot in Yiddish, German, and English. One of the most quietly powerful pieces of television Netflix has ever released, and one that most people still haven't heard of. Number 7. 7 Seconds. A cop hits a black teenager with his car. He doesn't call for help. He leaves him dying in the snow. And what happens in the hours after that? The decisions, the cover-up, the silence, that's the whole show.
Even when they're dead, they're looking at you and wanting answers.
Dead don't need answers. They're dead.
Created by Veena Sood, the same writer behind The Killing, this 10-episode series takes its time. It refuses easy resolutions. It sits with grief, with institutional cowardice, with the specific horror of watching a system protect itself rather than the truth. Regina King plays the boy's mother, and this performance won her an Emmy, the first of what would become a run of extraordinary television work. The series widens its lens across the police department, the district attorney's office, and the community itself, showing how complicity operates not as a single evil act, but as a chain of smaller decisions, each one individually defensible, that together produce something monstrous. Devastating, meticulously constructed, and criminally underwatched relative to the quality of what it achieves. Number 6. The Spy. Based on one of the most significant real intelligence operations of the 20th century, which changed the destiny of 2 warring nations.
If your country needed you to lie to your friends, your family, your wife, would you do it?
I will be a buyer working for the government.
Sacha Baron Cohen plays Eli Cohen, the real Israeli spy who infiltrated the highest levels of the Syrian government in the 1960s, becoming so trusted by Syrian military leadership that he was reportedly considered for the position of Deputy Minister of Defense, all while secretly feeding intelligence back to Israel that would prove decisive in the Six-Day War. This is Cohen's first major dramatic role after building his career entirely on comedy, and what he does with it is genuinely remarkable. A performance built on quiet, controlled tension rather than any of the exaggerated register audiences associate with him. Here's what makes The Spy genuinely gripping. It never lets you forget the human cost of what Cohen is doing. A man building genuine friendships under pretenses, living a double life so complete that the line between performance and reality becomes increasingly unstable, while his wife back in Israel raises their children largely alone. The tension of the final episodes is genuinely unbearable. One of the finest espionage dramas has ever been produced, and one of the most surprising dramatic transformations by any comedic actor in recent memory. Number 5. Crash Landing on You.
이렇게 모르는 사람이 보는 앞에서 울고 있어야 되냐고.
곧 좋아질 거요. 모든 게.
A South Korean heiress gets caught in a freak paragliding accident and literally lands, in North Korea, in a tree, in front of a North Korean officer who now has two choices: report her or hide her. He hides her, and from that one decision, an entire forbidden world unravels. Border guards, black markets, a regime that watches everything, and two people who are not supposed to exist in each other's lives, falling for each other anyway. Crash Landing on You became a genuine global phenomenon, one of the most watched Korean dramas ever produced, credited with significantly expanding K-drama's international audience beyond the communities that already loved the format. Son Ye-jin and Hyun-bin play the two leads, and their chemistry became so completely convincing on screen that the two actors married in real life several years after the series aired, a detail that tells you everything about how genuinely the performances land. But I personally want to mention the supporting cast. Whenever they were on screen, they took the show to a whole new level. 16 episodes. Funny, romantic, genuinely moving, and one of the most successful Korean dramas ever made. And still, outside Korean drama fan circles, wildly under-discussed in the broader conversation about Netflix's best work. Number 4. MAID.
Why are you here?
We don't have anywhere to sleep tonight.
So you're homeless.
I had a home and then we left it.
Do you want to call the cops now? It's not too late.
Margaret Qualley plays Alex, a young mother who flees an emotionally abusive relationship with her toddler daughter, and nothing else, and has to build an entire life from zero. Navigating housing assistance bureaucracy, taking a job cleaning houses for wealthy families who barely see her, all while trying to convince a court system that what she experienced counts as abuse worth protecting her from. Based on Stephanie Land's memoir, this 10-episode series is one of the most precise, unglamorized portraits of American poverty ever produced for television. Margaret Qualley's real mother, Andie MacDowell, plays her character's mother in the series, a woman whose untreated bipolar disorder makes her simultaneously a source of love and a source of chaos Alex can never fully rely on. And Margaret Qualley herself performs so raw that people who've lived through what this character lives through have said, publicly, that it's the first time they felt truly seen on screen. MAID is, ultimately, a story about a woman's determination to build something better for her daughter, told with a clarity about class and poverty in America that most television declines to attempt. This is one of the most honest, most raw series Netflix has ever made, and it deserves to still be part of the conversation. Number 3. Ripley. Patricia Highsmith's novel has been adapted before, most famously in 1999 with Matt Damon in the title role. Steven Zaillian's 2025 series does something entirely different. 8 episodes, shot in stark black and white, moving at a patient, coiled pace that gives Tom Ripley's transformation room the earlier adaptations never had.
He just wouldn't go away.
You like art, Tom? You're in the right place.
You like art, Tom? Well, you're in the right place.
Andrew Scott plays Tom Ripley, a small-time con artist sent to Italy to convince a wealthy man's son to return home, who instead becomes obsessed with the life the son is living, and then with the son himself. What follows is one of the most controlled character studies television has produced. Scott building Ripley's transformation from desperate outsider to something considerably colder, with a patience that the black and white cinematography perfectly complements. Zaillian, who wrote Schindler's List and directed The Night Of, shoots Italy not as postcard beauty, but as something almost brutalist. Stone, shadow, water, staircases that seem to go on forever. Every frame is composed with a precision that mirrors Ripley's own meticulous reconstruction of his identity. Andrew Scott's performance is genuinely unnerving, a man whose charm and menace occupy the same expression, played with a stillness that makes every scene feel like it could tip into violence at any moment. This received overwhelming critical acclaim on release, widely discussed as one of the finest limited series of the year. If you've only seen the 1999 film, this will show you an entirely different, and in many ways more disturbing, version of the same story. Number 2. Unbelievable.
We're on the scene of a violent attack. Police say a masked assailant broke in while the victim was sleeping.
He said you need to be more protective of yourself.
In 2008, an 18-year-old woman reported that she had been raped in her apartment. Police doubted her account. Under pressure, she recanted. She was charged with filing a false report. She was telling the truth. Unbelievable is based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning piece of journalism, an unbelievable story of rape. Across 8 episodes, the series tells 2 parallel stories. The young woman whose report was disbelieved and who spent years living with the consequences of that disbelief, and years later, and in a different jurisdiction, 2 female detectives who begin connecting a series of assaults that reveal a serial predator operating across state lines. Caitlin Dever plays Marie with a devastating, controlled vulnerability. Toni Collette and Merritt Weaver play the 2 detectives, whose careful, respectful, genuinely competent investigative work stands in stark and deliberate contrast to the failures of the first investigation. What this show does that almost nothing else on Netflix does is refuse to sensationalize a single frame of violence. You never see the assaults, not once. Yet somehow it is one of the most gutting, urgent, quietly enraging things you will ever watch. Based on true events, meticulously, respectfully told. One of the finest pieces of television Netflix has ever produced. Number 1. When They See Us. In 1989, 5 teenagers were coerced into false confessions for the assault of a woman in Central Park. They were between 14 and 16 years old. They were innocent. They spent between 6 and 13 years in prison before the actual perpetrator confessed after 13 long years.
The female jogger was severely beaten and raped. Every black male who was in the park last night is a suspect. I need all of them.
Ava DuVernay directed this 4-episode series, and it does not soften a single moment of what happened to these 5 boys. The interrogation tactics used against children, the media's role in convicting them before any trial began, the specific machinery of a system that decided their guilt before it looked at a single piece of evidence. The performances across this series are extraordinary at every level. The young actors playing the boys as they're first arrested, and the adult actors, including Jarrell Jerome in an Emmy-winning performance as Corey Wise, who plays the character across both his teenage interrogation and his years of adult incarceration in a single, continuous performance that never once breaks. The series faced real-world consequences for its subject. Donald Trump, who had taken out full-page newspaper advertisements in 1989 calling for the death penalty for the 5 teenagers before their trial, never retracted that position even after their exoneration. DuVernay's series makes that context part of the story without ever needing to editorialize about it. This is, by a significant margin, one of the most important pieces of television ever produced. It received widespread critical acclaim, multiple Emmy Awards, and remains one of the most vital pieces of storytelling about the American justice system ever made. If you watch nothing else on this list, watch this. That's the end of our today's list. 15 miniseries. All of them extraordinary. All of them sitting quietly, waiting to be found. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one is your favorite miniseries? And is there a title you think deserved a spot on this list? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see more underrated miniseries from other streaming platforms, tell me which platform I should cover next. I'd love to make another video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our latest movie and TV recommendations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.